What's up guys, today we're back with another tournament video. This time we're doing the $100 price bracket, so let's just jump into it. Starting off with the SimGot EA 500LM versus the legendary, the revolutionary Singolo. You already know where this is going. Next, we got some OGs, the Feel FH3 and the TriStar Cs. In terms of the treble, they're both pretty similar, very crispy, not the smoothest, but it's pretty good treble for the price. And then the bass is going to be better on the Star Cs, it's going to be fuller in the lower mids as well. The vocals are going to be better extended on the Star Cs, and it also comes with the switches. So because of that, I'm gonna go with the Star Cs. Next, we got the HBB Xuanyu and the Let's Sure DZ4. In my opinion, the Xuanyu is just a better version of the DZ4. It has more bass, the low end feels fuller, the vocals feel a little bit cleaner, a little bit more extended, and the treble has more air, not as dip, not as big in the dip. So overall, I would just take the Xuanyu if you want like a clean, like all-rounder set. Moving on, we got the Let's Sure S08 and the Ten Hi-Fi Doodoo. So these two are pretty different. The S08 is much tamer in the upper mids and the treble. It feels like it scales better and it feels more natural to me in the timbre, whereas the Doodoo is still pretty good for like timbre wise when it comes to planar, but it is a bit too peaky in the 3K region, as well as the treble can also be a bit peaky. So because of that, I'm going to go with the S08. Moving on, we have the Show ZP20 versus the Kiwi Ears Melody. Now the Melody is a V-shaped sound signature. The upper mids and the treble is very energetic. It might be a bit too much for some people, whereas the P20 is much tamer. It's like still warm and airy and energetic, but I think it's done better than the Melody. It just has a more unique sound. It's warm, but still airy and sizzly. And because of that, I'm gonna go with the P20. Next, we have the Tangent 4U versus the Full Explorer. Now, the 4U has sweet switches. It goes from neutral to warm to smooth, and then the Full Explorer is like a dark leaning set at mid volume, but once you crank it up, super immersive, super musical, great if you want to just like blast your brains out and be like lost in the music. So because of that, I'm gonna go with the Explorer. Next, we got the F1 Pro versus the T10. So these two are very close in the sound signature. It comes down to unit variance more than anything. If you don't take into account price, I would go for the F1 Pro. I just think it's a little bit better in the build quality as well as the overall sound, but not much of a difference. It's a little bit more detailed than the T10s, but either one of them would work. I just think the F1 Pro is just slightly better. Next, we got the SimGot EA 500LM versus the TriStar C. So the LM, in my opinion, is just a better version of the Star Cs. It could be a little bit bright depending on your unit, but I'm going based off of mine, and mine is just better in the overall resolution, the bass. In terms of the overall resolution and the extension, it's really hard to beat the LM at the price, so because of that, I'm gonna go with the LM. Moving down, we have the Xuanyu versus the S08, and these two are pretty different when it comes to the sound. The Xuanyu is your, clean Harman sound signature, where the S08 is more tamer in the upper mids and a little bit more bassier. Personally, I like the Xuanyu better. I think it's really good when it comes to just like clean and accurate traditional vocals, whereas the S08 is, the vocals are a little bit like kind of gone because they did cut off the upper mids. The S08 is still pretty good in the bass and the timbre, but I just think the Xuanyu is a little bit better, so because of that, I'm gonna go with the Xuanyu. Moving on, we have the Shozi P20 versus the Full Explorer. So these two are pretty unique both in the sound. The Shozi P20 is better for mid volume. It's warm and also like very sparkly and airy in the extension, whereas the Explorer is dark and more clean in the mid bass, but like once you crank the Explorer up, it just like scales so well. It's just super immersive and musical. So because of that, I think the Explorer slightly edges out the Shozi P20 for me, even though the P20 is still very unique and good in its own right. And then finally, we have the P1 Max 2 versus the F1 Pro. So these are both planar IEMs. They do have a little bit planar timbre to them. I think the P1 Max 2 is just a little bit better. It's just less like spicy, less sizzly in the treble. It sounds smoother. It sounds more balanced overall. So because of that, I'm gonna go with the P1 Max 2. Moving on to the semifinals, we have the LM versus the Xuanyu, and these two are pretty different. The LM is gonna be more exciting. It's gonna have more bass. It's gonna have more treble. The resolution is gonna be better on the LM. Whereas if you want a clean set, you would go for the Xuanyu. And for me, based off of my unit, I think the LM is still like funner for me. It's more exciting. The resolution is better. The bass texture is a little bit better. But if you do get a brighter LM set, then I can very easily see you going for the Xuanyu because it's just smoother, it's cleaner, and it's like safer, right? But going off of my unit, I'm gonna go with the LM. And then moving down, we have the Explorer versus the P1 Max 2. So these two are very different. I would say the P1 Max 2 is better for mid volume. It's like an all-rounder set. It has enough upper mids, it has enough treble, it has enough bass. It doesn't really stand out in any regions, but it's pretty well balanced, right? Whereas the Explorer is just like gonna be much better at higher volumes. The scaling, the immersion, the musicality, is a lot better. It's less like, I guess, boring, you would say. The Explorer is just more unique to me sound wise. It just like makes me so immersed inside the music. So because of that, I'm gonna go with the Explorer, even though the P1 Max 2 would be the better all-rounder. Alright, so for the finals on the left, we have the LM versus the full Explorer. Ooh, okay, this is pretty hard because the LM is gonna just stop the Explorer when it comes to the resolution, the extension, like, the quote unquote value. It's gonna be more energetic, it's gonna be better at mid volume. Most people are gonna like the LM more, but personally, I'm gonna still take the Explorer, even though the LM is the much better value. The Explorer is just like, again, immersive, musical, unique. Because of those reasons, I'm gonna go with the Explorer. It's just very different than all the other sets at its price. It kind of reminds me of like EJ07. It takes you on a journey and you just like lost in the sauce. Now on the right side, we have the Olina SC versus the Araya 2, and you already know how this is go. SC just stomps the Araya 2 in my opinion. It's just a much funner set. The energy is just right, and the staging has that holographic staging to it, whereas the Araya 2 is just, it's okay. So because of that, I'm gonna go with the Olina SE. Moving up next, we have the Tangzu Fudu versus the Kanira Phoenix Call. So these two are pretty different. The Phoenix Call is gonna be a V-shaped kind of sound. It's gonna be very energetic in the treble and the upper mids, whereas the Fudu is gonna be like a slight warm leaning sound signature. In terms of the timbre, both of them aren't the best in my opinion, but I would probably take the Fudu just because it's just like less fatiguing and less energetic in like the highs. I think the Fudu is just like less jarring to listen to. So I'm gonna go with the Fudu. Moving down, we have the EM6L versus the Hydro. Now these two are both great IEMs. The Hydro has a bass boosted diffuse feel kind of sound, whereas the EM6L is more of like your Harman boosted kind of sound. I personally like the EM6L better. It's just smoother. It's not as warm, I guess. It's not as V-shaped as the Hydro. The Hydro is gonna be more exciting, but the EM6L is gonna be like better all-rounded overall. And because of that, I'm gonna go with the EM6L, even though the Hydro is still really good. Next, we have the Hexa versus the Chino. So both of these are like neutral, balanced, and clean sound signature. I like the Chino better because it's like less shouty, less peaky in the treble. It scales a lot better, and it's like a cleaner version of the Explorer. And to me, out of like both neutral sets, the Chino just sounds more unique. So because of that, I'm going with the Chinos. Moving down, we have the EW300 versus the Del C AE, and the EW300, in my opinion, is just a better version of the AE. Better drivers, better resolution, similar sound. It's just a better version of the AE, so I'm gonna go with the EW300. And after them, we have the Legato versus the Quartet. So both of these are bassy sets. The Quartet is gonna be warmer, less sub bass, whereas the Legato is gonna be a little bit more sub bass focused. And overall, it's a little bit better if you just want more bass. Personally, I am a bass head myself, so I personally like the Legatos more. But if you find that too much bass, then the Quartet is good as well. Next, we got the File JD7 versus the Tri Meteors, and both of these are bassy sets. I think the JD7 is just a better version of the Meteors. If you want a bassy set, the treble extension is better, has a little bit more bass, and overall, I think it's just the funner set. And then lastly, we have the Titan S2 versus the Magic 1, and these two are similar in that they're both kind of like warm leaning set. The Magic 1 is gonna have less sub bass. It feels a little bit better in the vocals, and overall, the extension on the Magic 1, I would say, is a bit smoother. I think as an all-rounder, the S2 would be better, but I think the Magic 1 is a little bit more special, so because of that, I'm gonna go with the Magic 1. Now moving on to the quarterfinals, we have the Olina SC versus the Tangzu Fudu. So these two are fairly similar, but a little bit different. The Olina is gonna sound more natural in the timbre to me at least. It's gonna be less bassy, less warm, overall like better technicalities. It's got that holographic staging going forward, whereas you're gonna get more bass on the Fudu, but I think overall the extension and the timbre just better on the Olina as well as the technicalities. So for that reason, I'm gonna go with the Olina. Moving down, we have the EM6L versus the Chinos. Now the EM6L is very different. It's gonna be more filled in the upper mids. It's got more bass. It's more of your like your warm harmony kind of sound. Whereas the Chino is a lot different. It cuts the upper mids. It's gonna be like better for scaling. But I think the EM6L is just better in the timbre. It's also much smoother as well. It's the better all-rounder, whereas the Chino is pretty good. It's like unique from the different ones, but I don't think it's as unique as the Explorer. So because of that, I think the EM6L would be the better pick, and I'm gonna go with the EM6L. Next, we got the EW300 versus the Legatos. So these two are pretty different. Legatos obviously gonna be a bass head kind of sound, more sub bass, more low end. It's not gonna be as well extended, and I guess like more traditional and all-rounded as the EW300. I think the Legatos are really good, but I think the EW300 are just like more refined. It's much cleaner. You get better separation. So because of that, I'm gonna go with the EW300. And then finally, we have the JD7 versus the full Magic 1. So the JD7 is like your bassy kind of sound, where the Magic 1 is gonna be like a bit warmer, but a bit like cleaner in the vocals. Overall, I like the Magic 1 better. I think you want bassy, you would either go like probably legatos, because the Magic 1 is just more refined in the treble. It's gonna sound better to most people, I think, than the JD7, as well as to myself. It's the more unique, quote unquote, unique sound signature out of the two. So because of that, I'm gonna go with the Magic 1. It does the warm sound signature very well. All right, moving on to the semifinals, we have the Olina SC versus the Simca EM6L. And these are fairly similar, like kind of like harmonish in both of them. Olina vocals can be a little bit shouty versus the EM6L. It's gonna be cleaner than the EM6L. The EM6L is gonna be warmer. It's gonna be a little bit smoother in the treble than the Olinas, and you can't get the SC anymore, I think. So the EM6L also has better technical performance as well. So because of those reasons, I'm gonna go with the EM6L, even though the Olina is still a very fantastic set. Moving down, we have the Simca EW300 versus the Full Magic 1. These two are very different. The EW300 is your all-rounder kind of sound. It's gonna be a little bit better extended in the upper mids and the treble, whereas the Magic 1 is gonna be warmer. It's gonna be like smooth kind of sound signature. I would say for most people, I think EW300 is gonna be the better set. I would probably go for the EW300 because it's just cheaper and it's just a better all-rounder, as well as the technical part is up there as well. Now, as for the finals, on the right side, we have the EM6L versus his younger brother, the EW300, and this is kind of no-brainer. EM6L is just the better version of the EW300. It's smoother, it's better extended, it's a little bit more detailed, and overall, it's just better, right? It's the more expensive version of the EW300, so because of that, I'm gonna go with the EM6L. Alright, so for the finals, we have the Explorer versus the EM6L, and these two are very different. The EM6L is a much, traditional harmonic kind of sound. The upper mids, the treble is way better extended than the Explorer. At mid volume, you would go for the EM6L, no brainer. It's just more technical as well. Whereas the Explorer, again, high volume scaling set, more unique, very immersive in the stage, and the presentation makes you more connected with the music. If you like Harman, if you want like a balanced sound signature, you would go for the EM6L. But I am not a balanced kind of guy, so I like that unique sound. I like the immersion. Give me that volume. I love to crank it up. So because of that, I'm gonna go with a full Explorer as the final winner in this $100 price bracket. There we go. But yeah, there you go. Let me know your guys' favorite IEMs under $100. Next, we're doing the $200 price bracket, so stay tuned for that. But that's all for now. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see everyone soon. Shout out to Rark's Cat, Dom Q, Star Buccaneers, Discall Scaldus, B_Urac, Mystic Spoon Attack, Oh Really, Walker Standard, User, Ernest, Contain Guava Juice Gain, Patrick, Belcel Kel, Polly J, Mr. Gorillas, Anton Risto, Gis Sang Yan, Tamat Pat Frachet, Ed Dunlap, Christopher Jackson, Name, Henry Claudia, Son of a Horse, 777ZK, Ben Thompson, Franco Gomez, Hegu55, Asher, Wizard, Jab, Osvaldo, and I comment 87. Thank you guys so much for the support.